Welcome to Psychology Ninjas. Today on this channel we're looking at social identity theory as one of our theories of prejudice. So how are you going to explain social identity theory? Well, we've said the word theory a number of times, so therefore we're looking at key terms associated. What does that break down into? Well, we're looking at social categorization, social identification, social comparison. And those key headers we need to be making sure that we're explaining in terms of why prejudice specifically is a behaviour that's going to be the outcome. By separating out individuals, what we're ensuring is it makes it easier for us to show discriminatory behaviours and prejudicial views to the outgroup because we don't belong to them. In terms of adopting similar beliefs and values, it's encouraging those similarities and differences, that differentiation. Again, that like me mentality, which enables us to be more prejudicial, maybe negative towards those people who don't belong in our in-group. We can see here how these successes are exaggerated for in-group members and minimised for out-group members, allowing us to distance ourselves from their successes, saying it's not about them as individuals, but more situational factors. The key difference with social identity theory, rather than realistic conflict theory, is that it acknowledges the role of self-esteem, and that from getting that group identity, we have a sense of belonging, and we're worried about losing that if we don't go along with maybe prejudicial views. So the other key skill is about evaluation, and we're going to use our theory structure once again, and so we're looking here at SODA. When we're thinking about this, we need to ensure that we are both giving arguments and counter-arguments. And that comes from showing our wider knowledge with key terms such as mundane realism, that the task itself given in the study is not realistic, ethnocentric, that it's focused on a singular ethnic group or culture, and also things like reductionism, that it is too simplistic an explanation. So how are we going to put this all together with this 8 marker? Evaluate social identity theory as an explanation of prejudice. Well, we want to ensure that we're interweaving our AO1 and our AO3 in order to maximise those logical chains of reasoning. We're going to explain social categorisation, and then we're going to give our research support from Tajfel, ensuring that we make sure that we give specific findings. We're going to end that with a mini conclusion about validity. We've got validity and accuracy because these results have been replicated by this process, but actually we've got a problem in terms of mundane realism and it not being like society. Moving on then, you're going to look at how social identification is then explained in terms of prejudice, and then you're going to oppose that research using ethnocentric and Weatherall's ideas. This will come up again when we talk about culture as a factor in prejudice. You're going to move on and talk about social comparison, how this is an incomplete explanation, and here I've talked about personality as an alternative. However, you could put in realistic conflict theory here, but you would need to say why realistic conflict theory is a better theory than social identity theory. Here you could talk about more able to apply realistic conflict theory, and that we've got lots more research in relation to realistic conflict theory and superordinate goals working for reduction in prejudice. Finally, you're going to talk about self-esteem and how that applies to Fien and Spencer's research, and that self-esteem is a critical extraneous variable in trying to reduce or prevent prejudice, or in this case encourage prejudice, and so reduction in prejudice should target individuals with low self-esteem. Where we have application, we have credibility, that we know that we can apply this in the real world. Okay, let's have a look at this STEM question or scenario-based question. It's always important in every question that we know what our command word is, and in this case it's discuss. With a discuss question, all we're being asked to do is explain that theory and then apply it to the given scenario. Here we're looking at social identity theory and how it explains Greg's behaviour, and therefore all the examples that we give need to be appropriate for Greg and the local boxing club. How might we break this down then? Okay, so we've explained social categorisation, and then we're giving our examples. So Greg has categorised himself as a member of the in-group in the boxing club, and any people who are not belonging to that new club are viewed as the out-group. The more precise you can give your application and examples, the better. Don't worry about not being familiar with the context. I know very little about boxing clubs, but use your knowledge of kind of sports teams and that sort of thing that will then be able to give you some different examples. You want to have a lot of different examples here, thinking about 6 or more if you can do. Having a range of examples will show how you can apply your knowledge to a unique or novel scenario. Okay, let's have a look at another exam question. Here we've got a slightly different command word, to what extent. This means we need to form a judgment. We can see that this is a 16-mark question, and so this would appear on paper 3 and is asking you to use lots of different themes in your knowledge. We're still talking about social identity theory, so everything we've talked about today is relevant. And this time we're talking about Horatio and wanting to get people to join his prejudices in terms of mushrooms and tomato sauce being served with every meal. So within this exam question, what we're looking to do is ensure that we have application in both our explanation but also in our evaluation, and that's going to make us stand out from many other candidates. So we've got our example about in-group and out-group and how we might identify ourselves, but we've also talked about how the lack of mundane realism is a problem for Horatio, in that actually the members of his group may experience negative views to their ideas, and they may feel a backlash if they try and convince others. The same is true here, and we're still talking about social identification. You could think about some outward changes that might identify people with that group, maybe a badge or wearing green on Thursdays or whatever you can think of. We're also going to talk about those inward changes and about the positivity that an individual is going to experience and be told about in terms of eating mushrooms and tomato sauce. Again, you can see here in the elaborate that because predicting behaviour from collectivist groups is more problematic, sorry about that, okay, Horatio should focus on individualistic cultures, and we might want to give some examples like the UK or America. As we move through then, we're also thinking about making links in our evaluation here again, and we're making links between reductionism as a concept and our STEM. Finally, we're going to give our benefits in terms of self-esteem for the group and joining them, and we might target low self-esteem individuals in order to encourage these prejudicial views. Thanks for joining us today on our channel at Psychology Ninjas. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. See you next time.